Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. There are big changes happening this year for Star Citizen. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you all so much for the support, it is truly appreciated. So there was a recent 3-hour Star Citizen Live with the CTO of Star Citizen called Benoit, who went into detail about 4.0 preview, what caused the various issues and how they're fixing these various issues, plus what the top priorities are right now for the various bugs that we are dealing with. Now today I won't be going through that, as it dropped late last night and I needed sleep, but what I will be highlighting is what Jared said at the very beginning of the show, informing us as to what to expect this year for Star Citizen and the Persistent Universe, as it is going to be quite different to previous years. Now before we get to that, there is only a few days left to pick up the TOBII Tracker 5 at 15% off, and using the link in the description will take you to that deal, plus provide my channel with a direct kickback, and a big thank you to everyone who has done so already. Now this year is going to be very different to any year we have had, as Cloud Imperium's primary focus for the whole year is bug fixing, quality of life, and addressing all of the issues that we have been dealing with in the Persistent Universe, like stability and elevators. This means that there won't be 4 big, feature-rich quarterly patches, but more monthly patches, each containing many more bug fixes to tackle the difficulties, but also providing more content-driven gameplay for us to do in the Persistent Universe, which is referring to the fight for Pyro, stating that we will see the impact of our game decisions and who we choose to back unfold in Pyro throughout this year. Now this means the developers who would be working on new features will be temporarily pulled away from those new features and put on quality of life and bug fixing for the features that we have now, like refactoring the transit system so elevators and trams and so on work properly, fixing hangars and freight elevator issues, introducing a unique item recovery system as soon as possible as well, which is a way that we can get back our subflare or our bought items where we use real money, getting them back when we lose them, plus many more. Basically, they are hyper-focused on improving the gameplay and the Persistent Universe that we have now, and less time introducing new features into the Persistent Universe on top of the already struggling issues that we have. And as mentioned, moving to monthly patches with these bug fixes and quality of life updates, but also a new content and gameplay delivery schedule tied to the ongoing story narrative for the Persistent Universe, giving us, the players, the ability to basically shape the Persistent Universe, and hopefully start getting our names into the Galactopedia as well, which would be pretty cool. Now this doesn't mean that the features will be completely halted. They will still be working on all of those things like engineering, crafting, and base building, but this will be done more in the background, doing it slower and giving it more time to be refined, so not coming out as quickly as previously intended, I suppose, as the developers will be more focused on fixing what we have now. Also, when these new features are ready to come to the players' hands, they will spend a lot more time in testing on channels like the Tech Preview channel to make sure that they are functioning properly before they enter the PU. So essentially, monthly patches with less or no new features, but focused on fixing the bugs and refactoring the current systems to work properly with server meshing, plus new story-driven content, utilizing game systems we already have, further developing the stories of Stanton and Pyro and the factions and creatures and people that occupy them, and bringing us new in-game missions for us to take part in. Now personally, this is both good and bad. On one hand, development of, I suppose, ultimately 1.0 will take a bit longer, as features are taking more of a backseat to focus on getting the game working more consistently now, so more time until release. But on the other hand, getting what we have now into the best state that it can be, so those playing the alpha can have a much more consistent and enjoyable time. Now, firstly, I'm happy that the Persistent Universe will be fixed and polished to its most playable state, as I do play Star Citizen a lot, and oftentimes I cannot because the bugs and such stop me from playing. Plus, for new backers coming in, this is a great step for retaining both old and new backers really, So by the end of this year, and hopefully quite a bit sooner, it should be a great time to get in, to start playing more, to tell your friends to get in and play as well. Ultimately, it not feeling like as much of an alpha and actually playable. But the downside is, for me anyway, as much as I love playing Star Citizen's alpha, as I have had my greatest gaming experiences in Star Citizen's persistent universe, more than any game ever, even fully released games, the downside is I am not here for the alpha. I'm here for the finished product, which is 1.0 and beyond. So in a way, it feels like it's holding up the main target, being the released game, but I am more than happy to get the persistent universe and what we have now into a solid playable state, as a more stable environment inevitably helps to actually test everything properly anyway. So it's a bit of swings and roundabouts, and as we have seen, a persistent universe that is riddled with bugs, having more features bolted on, bringing in more bugs, while trying to tackle the previous bugs, is not working too well. Nor is it likely easy for the developers to maintain, and it's frustrating for everybody. So, as I say, more than happy to see how this approach goes, and hopefully in a few months, or at most a year's time, we will have such a solid and playable game in our hands that we forget it's even in alpha, creating that foundation that is easy to build upon, easy to maintain, meaning when they do get back to rolling out the bigger features, they are not fighting to get them working. Now, Jared also speaks about the weekly shows like Inside Star Citizen Live, and what's changing there. Both of those shows will alternate each week, so this week we have the 3-hour Star Citizen Live on Thursday, and then next week it'll be Inside Star Citizen, and then rinse repeat. They will alternate every Thursday. There is also the new Behind the Ships series that will take a dedicated look at a ship or a vehicle on its way to the persistent universe. We had the Fortune last week. Next week it will be the Super Hornet Mark II, and then Inside Star Citizen next week we'll be talking further about what is to come, so delving further into what they've said here. There will still be videos highlighting features in the works, just fewer of them. There will still be ships added to the persistent universe, but mostly using existing gameplay systems to avoid causing more issues. There will also be many more patches this year, approximately they say one a month. So far they say that they've got about 10 planned out, full of bug fixes and this story-driven content, but fewer big-ticket features introduced until the persistent universe is in a better state. So to conclude, this should result in a much more playable and enjoyable persistent universe overall, less big features, but more bug fixes and story-driven content. So if you are playing the persistent universe at this time, this will be great news, as it means a lot more for us to do, a lot more consistency and ease of playing. But if you're not playing and just waiting for it to be done, it'll likely extend it by a year or so. But for me personally, I am excited to see the persistent universe get to being more smooth, as too often I want to jump in, and when I do, bugs pop up instantly and then it puts me off and I jump back out again. So getting rid of these will make it better for all of us, but I think most importantly, it'll get the foundation of the persistent universe into a state that can accept those big ticket features and not break everything so much. No longer repeating these 3.18 or 4.0 preview incidents, which ultimately shouldn't happen anymore anyway, because that's the majority of the actual back-end foundational tech implemented. But obviously big features like engineering, for example, will impact a lot of areas of the game. Every ship and vehicle needs this engineering system, so it needs to be working as good as it can be before it does come in, otherwise it will break every ship and every vehicle, which is a bit of a blocker. Anyway, I'm excited to see how this year turns out, and seeing the persistent universe get more and more playable, seeing the player base hopefully increase again as they can actually get in and enjoy the game, and having many more great experiences in the persistent universe together with less problems. With that said though, I will be working on both the monthly report for January's work on the persistent universe, as well as breaking down this 3-hour live stream. Ooh, that's going to take a while, but I'm excited to hear it. Plus, if playability does increase this year, as they have said, then my off-grid and Zero to Hero series can come along and be consistent and not stop-start, as playability is ultimately what's stopping me from doing that. But with that said, if you do enjoy my content, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. We will be live today over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother or here on YouTube. It is entirely up to you where you want to watch. Playing more of this fight for Pyro for the CFP, and of course chatting about all that we've just heard. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you'd like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you, as always, to my patrons and channel members. Cannot do this without you guys, so thank you for the support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.